Growing up in many traditional households, respect is handed down like an unquestioned birthright, soaked in palm oil and pepper. But much of what we inherited as respect functions as control, dressed in agbada. When you're a child, your survival depends entirely on the adults around you. They filter what you eat, where you sleep, and when you speak. This total physical dependence hands the caregiver a primal level of power over your existence. When this power remains unexamined, it wears love like a mask. Respect is no longer a currency you earn through worthy deeds. It becomes a tax you owe simply for being born into a hierarchy you did not choose. This dynamic treats a child's natural urge to find their own course as a threat to the village. The system demands absolute compliance, ensuring the individual remains an obedient captive rather than developing the tools to govern themselves. In many homes, the child exists to crown the parent with glory, functioning as a trophy rather than a person. When a child's unique potential clashes with a parent's pre-scripted expectations, the child's identity is forcibly chipped away to fit the mold. Authority figures in these environments often extract continuous compliance, slowly draining the child's raw vitality. Any attempt to form a distinct voice is labeled as forming mouth, effectively silencing the inner self. You end up with a generation of adults with an external locus of control. They feel paralyzed by basic life decisions, constantly calling a committee of relatives or religious leaders to validate their choices. We look at this widespread indecision and call it a character flaw. In reality, it is the predictable outcome of a philosophy that dams the river of personal agency, leaving the individual with no map for their own existence. This dynamic persists into adulthood through economic leverage. In a landscape where financial independence arrives late, provision is often used as a leash, allowing parents to dictate an adult child's friendships, ambitions, and pain. The system neutralizes any pushback by mislabeling healthy boundaries. When a 26-year-old asserts her own needs, the system calls it ingratitude. When she questions a rule that makes no sense, it's labeled a violation of honor. Religious and cultural institutions often reinforce this top-down authority. Sacred texts are deployed as a double-edged sword, one edge for parents to command and the other for children to comply, leaving the individual isolated against a united front of elders. In this environment, the cost of speaking your truth is so high that you remain trapped in your own silence. Every conversation becomes a performance, and every honest thought carries the weight of a betrayal against the family. Eventually, the external voices move inside. The father's frown, the mother's warnings, and the imam's lectures merge together. They become a permanent internal psychological judge that lives in your head and never retires. This internal judge polices your thoughts long before you take action. The second you consider a choice that deviates from the script, your system triggers intense, trained guilt, a reflex installed before you were old enough to question it. This is why so many capable people stay stuck in cycles of self-sabotage. They appear functional to the outside world, but internally they are constantly negotiating with the ghost of a control system that doesn't want them to flourish. The architecture of control reaches its final stage when it operates autonomously. The parents no longer need to be present. The adult child now polices the bars of their own cage. Reclaiming your life requires shifting the locus of control. You have to move the center of your decision-making away from the internal judge and anchor it firmly in your own agency. This process involves setting firm personal boundaries. Because you are breaking a decades-old contract, the inherited control system will likely reject this as an insurrection, utilizing the full arsenal of silent treatments and guilt tripping. Your stomach will knot when you say no for the first time. You will feel a massive wave of guilt telling you that you're a terrible person. Recognize this as a physical echo of old conditioning, a trained response you must endure to reach the other side. Standing firm in that storm refuses to let the cycle of control continue. By setting a boundary, you stop functioning as a repository for your parents' unresolved trauma, allowing your lineage to finally develop a healthier configuration. Fear-based control isolates you. Real respect is spacious, allowing for mutual honor, where an elder guidance is sought, not demanded. It replaces a ladder of power with a circle of allies. You can forgive your parents for parenting from their own wounds without excusing the damage they caused. Forgiveness, in this sense, isn't about accepting continued control. It's about releasing the emotional poison from your own system. Maturation means stepping out from behind the veil of inherited expectations. It is the move into the bright, open space of total self-governance. The script of your childhood was drafted before you had a signature, but today you can pick up the pen, silence the internalized ghosts, and finally take your place as the director of your